Funeral, support for anti-crime bills from Paris. Hurricane Milton becomes a big threat in Florida. An internationally medical helicopter crash and kills 3 in Kentucky. In news, scores of people gather at a candlelight vigil that started at the promenade in Princestown and ended at the school, in solidarity and support against bullying and for suicide victim Jaden Lalchan. Reaching the point of Jaden's school, his mother fainted at St. Stephen's College front gate. Farida Lalchan regained consciousness but remained seated on a chair as hundreds raised their candles and placards as they called for justice for Jaden and an end to bullying in schools. The paramedics arrived in an ambulance sometime later to attend to her. Speaking up against bullying, the victim's cousin Joshua Mohammed made a touching contribution, calling Jaden to be a loving, kind and compassionate child. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Social Development and Family Service has given support to the family of Jaden Lalchan to cope with his death by suicide. The ministry said in a statement it is an unfortunate situation and that it has contacted the traumatized family of the St. Stephen's College student to offer counseling and psychosocial support. The Lalchan family has agreed to meet with social workers. Lalchan, 15, a Form 4 student, was the only son of Roshan and Farida Lalchan of Boomage Road, Princestown. In more news, coming from the Office of Director of Public Prosecutions gave further instructions to charge 2 persons in relation to the abuse of a 1-year-old baby, the police service has confirmed. After a video was sent to ACP Wayne Meister involving the incident of the 1-year-old infant last week. ACP Meister said the video he received shows the 2 children sleeping peacefully before someone begins stomping on them. In the video, the children are seen and heard to be screaming and crying while the attack is ongoing. Police then visited the home where they found the child bearing marks of violence. The child's mother, her sister and sister's boyfriend were taken into custody. The South Central Division had released a statement today confirming that charges are being laid. He is urging neighbors and members of the public who may be aware of instances of child abuse and domestic violence taking place in their communities to report these cases. In further news, the funeral service that was held for mother and son were murder victim Gerald Andy Felix and his mother, who died from dengue fever hours after her son was shot. Felix, along with his cousin Mario De Leon, who also was murdered that same night at Dookie Street on October 2nd. However, mere hours after Cecilia died at 3:30 a.m. on October 3rd from what doctors believe to be complications from dengue fever, unknowing to her that her son was murdered some hours before. Delivering a tribute, Felix's former co-worker Dale Sabalo appealed to people to keep their loved ones in check. The person who committed this act is somebody's son, somebody's boyfriend, somebody's brother. If they could have tried to get this person on the right track, prevent them from going the way of evil, this may have been avoided. Several contributions that were made all had the same sentiments. They are both unwavering devotion to Jesus Christ and also stating Cecilia as a prayer warrior, a woman of God, a high priestess of our household, and a woman after God's own heart. Meanwhile, checks with the police on October 7th revealed that the gunman who shot both Felix and De Leon was still at large. There was no word on De Leon's final rights. In more stories, during the 2024-2025 budget debate yesterday in Paris' contribution and lamenting on the crime situation, Paris said the police have to implement an immediate crackdown on crime, attack with full force, he said. He also called on the government to give law enforcement the necessary tools to combat the criminal elements in society. Let's take the fight to the criminals. Let's not wait for the criminals to fight us. It is in the regard he returned his attention to Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, whom he said carry heavy responsibility to find a solution to crime, and offered his support. He also said if the legislation can come with the protection for our citizens, their constitutional rights and it can stand the test of judiciary, I am prepared to consider it. Although stressing on the points, he also added he considered himself lucky to be alive and that his family has not been directly affected by crime. Parry, along with Naparima MP Rodney Charles, the Tabakeet MP Anita Haynes-Allen, Chaguanas West MP Dinesh Rambali, and Kamuto Manzanilla MP Dr. Rai Ragbir were moved to the far end of the opposition bench in Parliament chamber after they publicly criticized the leadership of the United National Congress during the party's June NATEX elections. Meanwhile, in news, communities in Florida are bracing for the impact of Hurricane Milton, which quickly intensified from a tropical storm to a powerful life-threatening hurricane much faster than predicted. By early Tuesday morning, the National Hurricane Center had slightly downgraded Milton from a Category 5 to a Category 4 storm. But officials at the agency warned of the storm's power. Milton poses as an extremely serious threat to Florida, and residents are urged to follow the order of local officials. As of 8 a.m. Eastern Time, Tuesday, Milton was about 545 miles southeast of Tampa, moving at 12 miles per hour and carrying maximum sustained wind speeds of 145 miles per hour. A slew of advisories are in effect across large stretches of the western Florida coastline, where storm surges could reach as high as 15 feet. Meanwhile, concerns for Trinidadians in Florida and Hurricane Milton, Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, Dr. Amy Brown, said the consulate is in communication with Trinidadians in Florida as they prepare for the passage of the storm, which comes on the heels of Hurricane Helen. Trinidadians in Florida at this time are advised to follow the safety instructions provided by state officials. A list of emergency contacts have been listed via the consulate's website. And internationally, 3 people have died after a medical helicopter crashed in northern Kentucky Monday night. Kentucky State Police identified the victims of the crash as Gail Ailman, Bethany Aiken, and James Welsh, who all died at the scene of the crash. The crash happened around 5:37 p.m. in Owen County near State Route 22, about 2 miles north of Owen County High School. The helicopter that crashed was with Air Evac Live Team 133 out of Williamstown, Kentucky. The company released a statement Monday night reading in part, Air Evac Live Team is heartbroken to share that 3 crew members from AEL Base 133 perished in a helicopter accident in Owentown, Kentucky. The crew is based out of Grant County, Kentucky, and were on the way to a scene to pick up a patient when the accident happened. The statement went on to say they will work closely with Federal Aviation Administration and the National Transportation Safety Board during the investigation. Now let's take a look at sport and the weather report. In sports, Cricket West Indies has extended congratulations to the St. Lucia Kings on their victory in the 2024 CPL. The Kings defeated defending champions, the Guyana Amazon Warriors, by 6 wickets on Sunday night to take the title in their 3rd final. The St. Lucia Kings have etched their names in history, and I commend their performance throughout the tournament, which was an exhibition of relentless hard work and unmatched determination, CWI President Dr. Kishore Shalu stated. In more sports, forward Ferran Torres will be sidelined because of a right thigh injury sustained in Barcelona's victory over Alaves in the Spanish league, the club said Monday. Torres had to be replaced 5 minutes into the 3-0 win at Alaves on Sunday when striker Robert Lewandowski scored a hat-trick. Barcelona said a test carried out on the first-team player Ferran Torres confirmed that he has an injury to the biceps femoris muscle in his right thigh. His return to training will be dependent on his recovery. Torres has made 10 appearances this season, 6 as a starter. His only goal came in the 7-0 league win against Valladolid in August. And that's all for sports. Now let's take a look at your weather. Trinidad, Tobago and the remainder of the Lesser Antilles generally sunny and at times breezy conditions despite few showery interruptions. There is the low to medium chance of isolated thunderstorm activity. The night will be fair to partly cloudy with isolated showers and the risk of heavier shower or thunderstorm favoring Tobago. Gusty winds and street or flash flooding are possible in the vicinity of heavy downpours. In our temperature last night, we had a minimum temperature of 24.8 degrees in Trinidad and 28.9 degrees in Tobago. Our maximum temperature is 34 degrees in Trinidad and 33 degrees in Tobago. Our seas are slight to moderate with waves between 1 and 1.5 meters in open waters and below 1 meter in sheltered areas. Recapping the headlines. Vigil for Jaden, mother along with a 44-year-old man to be charged with attempted murder. Mother and son gets a joint funeral. Support for anti-crime bills from Paris. Hurricane Milton becomes a big threat in Florida. And internationally, medical helicopter crash and kills 3 in Kentucky. And that's all for your news. I'm Chanaka Phipps. Thank you for joining me. Do have a blessed day.
News from the street. News from the street. 919fm.com.